Welcome back. It's Sunday morning and that means one thing. It's car camp tutorial day. I've been thinking about doing this tutorial for quite a while now, and it's about something that is really important to me when I go car camping, and that is how I go to the toilet. It may just be an age thing, but for me, knowing where I can go is undoubtedly one of the most important things. I've been car camping now for almost a year, and in that time how I go to the toilet has changed quite significantly from the very first time through to my present time. And actually there are different times when I will use different things. So whilst this is a tutorial on which car camping toilet is the best, in reality what I'm showing you is what I use and actually when each of them would be better. I mainly solo stealth camp, but just recently my wife has started coming along too. Yes, we actually both managed to fit in the back of a Vauxhall Zafira. So therefore I have two separate types of toilet setups, you could say. One when it's me going solo, and the second is when my wife is with me. But what you have within my solo setup is what I started with and what I now use. When I first went stealth car camping back in Minas Bay, all I had was a bowl, a regular bowl. But what I did was I lined it with a little cat litter bag. I put some cat litter inside it and that worked. Now the good thing about this is you can use it both outside and you could actually use it in the back of the car as well. But whilst it was effective and it did the job in its most simplest form, as you can well imagine, it could be a little bit hit and miss when you're doing, say, number twos. An important thing to say as well is, I know you don't actually need to have anything in the back of your car really, because you can either do it outside, you can use public toilets, you can go to restaurants, and there's all those options. In terms of me, I like to know that I can go toilet whenever and however, and I'm not reliant on public toilets being open, and I'm not reliant on finding a pub or something to go into, a pub which I otherwise wouldn't have gone into. Oh, and I'm also not a massive fan of the idea of going outside the car with a shovel. That's assuming there's even somewhere I can dig a hole in the first place. So the next piece of toileting equipment, and you'll see this in a few people's videos, urinal bottle. Now, the good thing about the urinal bottle is, of course, it comes with a feminine adapter. So that means it's obviously good for myself and the wife. And actually, to be honest, when we went couples car camping, my wife was able to use this in the back of the car. So that was cool. And I've certainly used this when I've been solo stealth camping, probably, because I think I had this when I first went. So I had the two of these for number ones and number twos basically. And yeah, it's a bottle, you can wee in it, it works perfectly. And the good thing of course with this urinal bottle is they're only cheap. It's got a lid on it, keeps it all in, there's no problems. And importantly, you don't need to leave your car to do it. If you only want something to do a number one in, get yourself one of these. And no matter what your car is, be you male or female, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to use it in the back without needing to go out. I mentioned a second ago, when I use this, I put cat litter inside it. Cat litter absorbs, and if you have scented cat litter like we do for our cats, it helps with the smell as well. So that's why it's a good idea to put a little bit of cat litter in the bottom if you're going for this type of method. When myself and my wife went car camping, how we were going to go to the toilet for me was one of the most important things, because whilst we were going to rely on public toilets, the problem with public toilets is that they tend to shut quite early and then they open quite early the next day, which is all very well, but what happens in the middle of the night and you need a number two? So the thing I normally use for my solo stealth camps, we couldn't use when we went couples car camping, because quite simply there wouldn't have been enough room for it. So what was the solution? Well, the solution was this: a collapsible toilet. When you're couples camping in Zafira, space is an absolute premium. So the fact this folds down so nice and small was absolutely perfect, because we could just literally slide it under the bed, whether we needed it or not. And you could say what this is basically a posh version of this. Now how this works, I'll show you now. And as you can see, this really is the posh version of the thing I first used. Now this works exactly the same. You have some little bags that go inside, you sit on it, put cat litter in it, Bob's your uncle. So I did actually use this when we went car camping together, and it worked. And that leads us on to the final thing, and the final thing is what I use when I go stealth car camping, and that is a Porta Potty. So I have the Porta Potty 335, and the reason why I use a Porta Potty in the car is that I don't want to have to worry about public toilets. I don't want to have to worry about going outside the car. I want to be able to do everything inside the car, and actually with this size Porta Potty I can, and because it's a proper chemical toilet, it doesn't smell either. Of all the equipment I use in my stealth camps, the Porta Potty is the one thing that probably gets the most amount of comments, because lots of people think it's a bit overkill for stealth car camping, and they just say, why don't you use public toilets, why don't you use any of these other things that I've got? Well, I think at the end of the day it is purely personal preference. I like a Porta Potty because it means I don't have to leave the car, and where I park in car parks quite a lot, the ability to be stealthy means if you have to get out of a car park, try and find a toilet, then you're kind of not being particularly stealthy. So with the Porta Potty, I don't need to leave the car. And equally importantly, I would say, if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it's chucking it down outside, and you really need a number two, well, that's where the Porta Potty comes into its own. So in terms of how much capacity the 335 has, it's more than sufficient for, I would say, a couple of days car camping. And at the end of the day, if you're going for any longer, then you can easily empty it down a toilet, and that's it. That's my little toilet tutorial around everything I use or have used, when I would use it, and hopefully it will give you some ideas as to what is good for you and what will work best for you. And that's the point, it's what works best for you. In the meantime, I now need to measure up this car so myself and my wife can start to work out how best we can organise the inside in preparation for our next car camp, which should be, well, as soon as we sort out how we're going to make the inside better. So until next time, take care.